Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
Gerry Dulac in just a few moments. We'll talk with him about the Steelers. I'm actually going to lead off with Gerry about the Ryder Cup, just as a lead-off, because Gerry is so phenomenal at golf, among everything else. But let's bring in Gerry right now. My friend, welcome back. It is so good to hear you on the other end. Appreciate your time. Oops. There we go. Hey, Gerry.
Hey, Steve. How are you, man?
There you go, my friend. So great to hear you on the other end. So wonderful to hear you.
Doing okay?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Yeah, I'm more excited about Penn State's start than the Steelers, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would think so. I do have to open up, though. I got to ask you about the Ryder Cup. 19-9.
Absolutely.
19-9. That's a dominating performance in this format. What did you think of the construction of the team and also what Steve Stricker did with it?
Well, sometimes in these events, Steve, I think the captain is given too much credit and too much criticism, because it still comes down to the players being able to go out that day and perform. I do think, however, the fact that, and I don't think he did anything different than other guys have tried, especially lately, sending them out in groupings, in 3 different groupings during the practice rounds. But I think the key was all the guys coming there 2 weeks early, all the vice captains coming. So I think there was a sense of togetherness there that certainly helps. It wasn't the reason, but that was part of it. And I also think, too, as you heard the guys talk about how all those guys have known each other a long time, because you look at the average age of this team, Dustin Johnson's the old guy in his mid-30s. So all these young guys have been together and playing against each other for a long time, and as Jordan Spieth said, back to grade school. And so I think that was a big factor. And those young guys, they don't have any mental baggage about past Ryder Cups, and the only one who would be Dustin Johnson, and look what he did, went 5-0. So I think that was probably the biggest factor. There's no question Steve Stricker's the type of guy that a lot of them like. Still a good player, easygoing. Listen to what they had to say, but other guys have tried that. Really, the only captain that they didn't like was Tom Watson, and strangely enough, the most accomplished captain, if you will, other than Jack Nicklaus going backwards. So, and of course, it didn't help the Europeans, with the crowd like 98%, against them pro USA because of the travel restrictions. That didn't help them either. And the other thing that hurt the Europeans was the one thing that the Americans did that the Europeans have done for years, and that's putt well. And they just didn't putt well at all, especially Matthew Fitzpatrick and Victor Hovland. They were absolutely brutal on the greens, and cost them a couple matches because their ball striking was good. They just couldn't put anything in the hole.
Sometimes you don't have a good weekend, but what are you seeing about with Rory McIlroy right now at this point?
Well, that was the other thing too, Steve, and I'm glad you brought it up because that was the other point I wanted to make. I think he was nothing short of just disappointing, and when your star player, and I know they have Jon Rahm, and Jon Rahm performed like the number 1 player in the world, but McIlroy he's kind of the fabric of that team. And for him to go out and just play so poorly, not lose, just play so poorly, and him winning a singles match was too late. And I think you saw that in his emotional reaction afterward. He knows he let the team down. And he did not rise to the occasion. I'm not going to say he shrunk to the occasion because he's beyond that, but his game, which has been so inconsistent all year, it just didn't show up like it has in a number of majors. And I think that was a big, big factor when they see Rory struggling and not setting a tone for them.
All right, so now we'll transition to the Steelers. Okay. And I'll start
right now, they are Rory McIlroy.
Yes, at this point.
They started like Dustin Johnson the first game, and now they've morphed into Rory McIlroy the past two.
Yes, exactly. Ben Roethlisberger, I know a lot's been made of the 4th and 10. Here's my issue with the 4th and 10, where he dumped the ball off to Harris. All right. That's the kind of play I expect Daniel Jones to make.
Yeah.
Not a play that I expect Ben Roethlisberger, veteran who understands situational football, to make. Am I off base on that?
Not at all. And I think, the play bothers me on several fronts. First and foremost is that was the play that they came up with out of the timeout.
Yes.
It isn't like they were in a hurry up and they had no timeouts, and they for whatever reason they had to hurry up and call a play. And I can see that to a degree because the play was terrible. But when you're coming out of a tight timeout and that's what you come up with, like several people said to me after the game, do you think they thought it was third down? Because that's like a third down type of play. And I said, well, that's impossible because they had a timeout. There's no way they thought that. Second of all, their explanation after the game, I think Ben's explanation was they thought they would get Najee out in the flat and get some blockers in front of him. And whether he's just covering up for a poor play call or whatever, but if you watch the replay, there's no blockers out in front. The line was blocking for him, and all the receivers went into the end zone. So, I mean, it's not a horrible play. It's a baffling play. I just don't get it. And to your point, and Ben said after the game, I wish we would have thrown it in the end zone or gone into the end zone. And he says, I wish I would have gone into the end zone. I honestly don't know what happened there. Whether Ben just thought, okay, I'm going to do what I want to do, or Ben's thinking, okay, if this is the play, we're going to run this play. I just can't believe that. It's just baffling on many fronts. And also, it's not like they thought they were going to sneak Najee Harris out into the flat. The guy had just caught 8 passes on the final 2 drives, was 90% of their offense, and so it isn't like they were going to surprise the Bengals with putting the ball in Najee Harris's hands. So it was just I could go back a long way and not think of a play so horribly awful and puzzling as that one in that situation.
I completely agree with that, what you just said. Again, I expect a first, second, or you and I both see first, second, third-year quarterbacks, it's 4th down. Okay, I dumped it. I got a completion. Like, no, that's not the right completion. And that's what baffled me about that. I mean, it's not a play Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes would make.
No, and I don't know if Ben, with the pressure of the last couple games, thinks he has to get rid of it. But still, he still could get rid of it on a quick slant into the end zone or anything. But in that situation, 4th and 10 at the 11. If you're on the 3 and you're going to try and run a little soft wheel route or something, okay, get the ball in his hands quick and see if he can beat somebody to the end zone. But 4th and 10 from the 11, just a brutal call. And then Mike Tomlin saying afterward, adding to the puzzlement, which is we had fired all our bullets at that point and it wasn't a good play, making it sound like we didn't have a good play for that situation. We had used them all, and that just added to the bewilderment of that play.
How much is adding to the bewilderment of what they're trying to do with an offensive line that you, me, and everyone else identified as a potential problem going into the season? They can't run the ball. And
no, that's right. And they're still last in the league. Now, we're seeing Najee Harris, an 18-yard run, 2 14-yard runs 2 weeks ago, a 20-yard run. Last week, a 10-yard run that was negated by a holding penalty. So we're starting to see some production in that regard from the guy, and incrementally, game by game. The offensive line with 4 new starters would have been 5 at all the positions. And 3 of them, 2 rookies and a second-year guy who's starting for the first time. I didn't think, and I'm not going to evaluate them after 3 games. Are they struggling? Oh, yeah. But they knew it was going to be a work in progress with these young guys. Right. And now, if the same thing is happening in Week 10, then you have to sit there and wonder, okay, is it time for a change? Do I think these guys aren't talented enough? No. The guys with keener eyes than mine, former players, think the guys that they have, and of course, talking to the coaches, the guys they have are good players. It's just going to take some time. And individually, some of them win some battles, and some of them don't, but all 5 of them aren't doing that at the same time. And I think they're caught a little between the quarterback that they have who's accustomed to an offensive line that's going to drop, step, and protect him, and an offense where they want to try to run the ball and get into three-point stance. Ben gets under center, but he doesn't get up under center a lot, and that's different for him too. So I think all of that combined, Steve, is just making the whole thing look discombobulated, and yet they go to Buffalo, and in the second half they score 4 consecutive scoring drives and win the game. And that's the very first game of the year against a good Buffalo team. So the one thing I have learned over the years, and I'm sure you would agree, is that, and I saw this in 2008, it's a long season. I've seen stranger things happen. In week 3 of 2008, they went to Philadelphia, and they got ambushed. Ben threw a couple interceptions. He was sacked 8 times. They scored 3 points. They scored 13 points in those 2 games. The second week and week 3, it was 16 points. Yeah. And they just looked pathetic, and they couldn't protect Ben. And you know what? They ended up in the Super Bowl and won. And so, good or bad, I'm not going to evaluate them after 3 games. I've learned to say I'll just wait and see. I'll give it week 10 or so before I jump to some conclusions.
I feel the same way. I've always been a big believer. I need to see a body of work. Right. And this team has its body of work, like the Eagles and everybody else. It's limited to this point. Defensively, no T.J. Watt. My running joke all week was the only thing that worked for him last week was direct deposit. But what is the domino effect when he is not on the field?
Well, he's not on the field. Alex Highsmith, the other outside linebacker, is on the field. And Melvin Ingram has to play 57 snaps for the most part. And they don't want him doing that because the guy's 32, but he has 2 bad knees, one in particular. And they brought him in to be a nice rotational guy, play about 25 snaps a game. And okay, it's early in the season, but they don't want Melvin Ingram having to play that many snaps. And so, unfortunately, last week he did. And now the trickle down of that is they're using 2 guys on the outside in a 3-man rotation who have played a combined 47 snaps in the NFL. Well, guess what? Your strength of your team is now your weakest part of your team for that game. And now, it's the first game without Tyson Alualu. He fractured his ankle. He is out for the season, and there's still no Stephon Tuitt. So 4 of your top 7 guys aren't playing in that game. And Devin Bush, it's his first game back after a groin injury, so they were just being a little careful with him, taking him out of some sub packages just to make sure he doesn't get too much strain on that groin injury. So that might sound like an excuse, but to me, it's a good excuse because of who you're missing and at what positions. And so I'm not going to sit there and worry about the defense. I think with all those guys on the field, except for Stephon Tuitt, you saw what they did in Buffalo. And I think that defensively they'll be okay. But when you're missing 2 of those front 3 guys, Tuitt and Alualu, and there's no timetable for Tuitt to come back, Steve, it's not like they have a lot of young guys, waiting to jump into the lineup. Quality guys. Their depth there is very suspect, and they're going to rely on guys who are not. Chris Wormley's been okay, but they're going to rely on some young guys who just aren't proven NFL players, and so there's going to be a big drop off there.
Gerry, it's always a pleasure, my friend. It's just great to hear you on the other end and all the stuff you have to say. Appreciate you so much.
Well, Steve, thanks for the golf talk. It's good tonic for me, take my mind off of football for a while. So I always enjoy the golf talk. And like I said, I'm excited by what I'm seeing up there, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and see how it goes.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gerry. Appreciate it. I hope your daughter's doing great up here. So
yes, she is, Steve. And I told her I was coming on with you, so she was all excited.
Oh, that's great. Thanks,
Hey, I'll
Gerry.
be up there. I'll be up there in a couple of weeks to visit her. I'm staying overnight. I think it's a bye week. I'll contact you and see if you want to sneak in a little early 9 holes on a Friday.
That's cool. I can't wait. Thanks, my friend.
I'll let you know, though. All right, man.
Thanks,
See you, Steve.
Gerry.